Hey guys, Mackay here with Ironside Ranch. Today we're going to talk a little bit about pruning. Specifically, we're going to go over how to prune a pear tree. Okay, so I know it's been a while since we've done a video, and the reason for that is because we've got both channels going now, and we're trying to do 2 videos per month per channel, and so 4 videos total. And so if you haven't checked out the other channel, please do so. I'll put a link down in the description to take a look at that. But this one, this is our, obviously our little farm, our little homestead here, and so we're going to be going over some more stuff oriented towards that self-subsistence lifestyle, if I can get that out. And so right now, like I said, we're down here in our orchard, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to prune a pear tree. And you'll notice pear trees are a little bit different. Peach trees, you tend to do them, they're kind of the opposite of this. We open up the middle of the peach trees, we get those branches out to where we can reach them and prune them, or reach them and pick them right from the ground, or with just a small stool. And so they're just a little bit different. So pear trees, they take on more of a traditional role of pruning, and what we would think of when we think of pruning, where that tree is going to get kind of that rounded bottom and come up to a point there in the center. That center feeder that we're sending up, the lead branch that we're sending up, that needs to be about 10% higher than any of the other branches around it. That's kind of your ideal goal. And so, like I said, then we're trying to get that nice rounded shape, so that way that promotes healthy growth for them. You can see they get what's called these little water spouts coming out here, and so these will continue to grow throughout the growing season here this summer, and they take up a lot of the tree's energy. So we come by every year and we trim off all these little water spouts, get rid of every single one of them. And then what we're going to do is we're going to trim back our branches, and we're trying to get our branches to make a 60-degree angle with the tree. That's kind of the goal going up. These trees I've had a really hard time with, because when we bought the property, they were completely overgrown with kudzu vine. We didn't even know we actually had them. It was so overgrown. And so we've cleared all this area out, and we got these pear trees out here. And so then now we're trying to kind of fix what we've had. You can only take 1/3 of the tree at any given time. That's always kind of the rule of thumb. You never want to take more than 1/3 of the tree, otherwise you risk killing it. We have done that several times here, where we've taken a little bit more than that just because they were so bad, and we said, okay, the risk of killing it is acceptable, because we really just need to get these under control so we can promote some healthy growth with the trees. So you can see we've got some branches coming out like this big stalk here that are at that 60-degree angle, but then we've got other ones that are not, that we've allowed to grow, and it's simply because we didn't have an option with this tree. Every year we prune it, it'll get a little bit better, specifically when we prune it in the springtime. The fall trimming, all we're really doing is knocking off those water spouts, getting a few leaders set up, and we're not really doing anything more than that. The spring trimming, that's where we can be a little bit more aggressive, because you're getting ready to just open up to a ton of growth. You don't want to do that right before it goes dormant in the wintertime. You do risk killing it because it can't heal as well. Every one of these cuts is creating a wound on the tree. So if you think about making a wound on yourself, you get bacteria in there, you get infection, stuff, etc., etc. You deal with the same thing with the tree. Every time you cut that open and open up that bark, you expose it to pathogens and allow those pathogens to get in there, whether that's wood-boring insects, or whether that's some type of parasite that's attacking the tree. All of that will get into those openings, and it weakens the tree. And so we want to give ample time to heal on those, and we don't want to create too much of that right before the winter, before it has a chance to really grow and really heal. All right, so you can see right here we have this lead. This one came down and sagged down a little bit. So again, this will be one of those ones that we cut off here next year, when we prune back in the springtime. And we're still, every year, we're trying to get more towards that nice conical shape that we want our pear trees to be in. We reduced down our leader here because we want to keep our leads fairly low, because we want to maintain the size of that tree. If you're a commercial operation, it's a little bit different story, because you've got the big ladders, you've got the lifts, you've got everything to be able to pick those pears efficiently. If you're not a commercial operation, you've got a ladder that's a pain in the butt to move around, and so you want to kind of keep your trees a little bit on the smaller side. You sacrifice a little bit of the fruit, but you can control the tree, and you make it a lot easier for picking during your harvest season. And so we cut the lead off of this tree way up to about 15 feet up or so, and really cut that back and gave it a really aggressive pruning. We've done 2 really aggressive prunings on all of these pear trees here, and they're slowly starting to kind of take a better shape and get control. But like I said, every year we got to come by, and we'll come by in the fall, and we'll knock all these water spouts off, and then we'll come by again in the spring, and we try to shape the tree into a nice healthy shape every spring. get rid of any growth going in directions we want it. Right now you've got a big branch coming out over here that's actually shading this whole area, which makes it great for the video, but it's actually not the ideal way that we want this tree. And so we're actually going to be cutting this back, but we couldn't take it this year because we were already cutting too much of the tree off. And so we're going to cut this back and make leaders out here that are much closer. Now when we cut these trees, we want to make sure that, so you can see this is actually kind of a bad cut here, and I don't know if you can see that, but this one sticks out, maybe a quarter or half an inch or so. And what we want is we actually want ones that are more like this here, where you can't see it. Now that the tree's healed, it's almost completely glossed over that, and it's no longer even an open cavity. And so really what we want is we want to kind of cut that right at the base and get a nice smooth cut. You can see over here, this one's not bad here. And this allows the tree to heal a little bit better. When you have something like this sticking out, it's much harder for the tree to heal over it. It creates a longer opportunity for that tree to get some type of parasite or, again, wood-boring insect in there, and so it kind of sets you up for failure. The other thing is they just tend to rot out, and they can rot holes in your tree, weakening the trunk of your tree, which is what actually this one had. Somewhere up there, and I actually had to cut off a huge monstrous trunk of the tree just because it was so weakened by the disease that had gone in there. I didn't want to take the rest of the tree. I had to do that on 2 of these actually. And so, and again, we got to be kind of careful so we're not taking too much. So you want to make sure you come in here, and maybe this one here, this fall will come in here, or this spring will come in here, maybe clean up some of these ones that haven't healed very well, and we'll cut them back just a little bit further. It's probably not needed because sometimes you run the risk then of you're opening up a wound that's already partially healed, and so maybe we don't want to do that. So we'll kind of measure it on a case-by-case basis when we actually get to the springtime. You can see, and I don't know if you can see up here very well, but up here we've got these branches kind of crisscrossing up there. That's not ideal. If we were setting the tree up from the beginning, we would not allow them to do that. We want to get nice maximum exposure to the center of that tree, which is part of the reason why we take off those water spouts, and we would direct these in different directions. It's too late for this one now, so that one's kind of stuck like that. We're not going to do anything with it. But keep in mind, if you want to set up a different leader, it's actually not that hard. You're going to cut here at an angle, and you're going to follow one of those water spouts that goes in the direction you want it to go, and you're going to cut back to one of those and cut slightly at an angle. You want that water, all the rainwater, to drain off of it so that can heal, and then it's going to direct that energy into this lead, into that water spout. It'll actually direct it out and start creating another branch. And so you'll by the fall you'll have a nice hefty branch there that's actually growing really well. You're probably not going to get any fruit off of it for a while, but it'll start shaping the tree and directing the energy where you want it to go. And that's really what pruning is about in the end. It's really about directing the energy how you want it. We don't want the energy going into water spouts. We want the energy going into fruit. And that's why certain types of trees you'll come and you'll actually pick off some of the fruit and allow the fruit to actually get bigger where you've got it. I know that's real common in some areas specifically for, like, peaches, apricots, stuff like that, where they'll actually come by and they'll pick off 1/3 of the fruit, and that way you direct that energy into the other fruit, and the fruit will get bigger as opposed to having just a plethora of a bunch of smaller fruits. We have not got to that point yet with pears. From my understanding, that's not necessary with pears, so I'm not really going to worry about it too much. But like I said, every year I can take 1/3 of this, so it takes time to fix a tree that has just been allowed to grow for 15 years without any type of pruning at all. That's what's happened here. You can see our peach trees there, we will allow them to grow for the rest of this year, and then they'll probably get a very light pruning here in the springtime, just so that we can start taking shape. And peach trees are a little bit different. Like I said, we're going to open up the middle. We're not going to have that leader branch coming out the middle like we do on a pear, and we're going to allow that to kind of flower out and create somewhat of a cone, and that way all the peaches are there within grasp, and we don't even need a ladder to pick our peaches. And that's kind of the idea that we're getting to. We're going to do another video later on. We've got some pawpaw trees coming here that hopefully we'll be planting this year, and so when we get the pawpaws, we'll go over a little bit more on how to actually prune those. But I wanted to go over this because there wasn't any information when I was looking on YouTube. There wasn't a lot of information on actually pruning trees, or specifically pruning pear trees. I didn't find a particularly good video on it, and so I thought that any of y'all that have pear trees, this might answer some questions for you on how to get this set up. So the things to keep in mind is, like I said, you're looking for that 60-degree angle coming out, because when that weighs down with fruit, it'll actually be at the correct it corrects itself and will weigh down to about 45 degrees or so. And that's kind of what you're looking for. So 60 degrees coming out. Never take more than a third of the tree at one time. Like I said, you can, if you're trying to reclaim some trees, you can kind of risk it a little bit more. And then make sure you're controlling the height of that tree so that everything is staying within grasp and within easy use of you. So don't just let that center feeder go wild. You can cut it off and redirect it into a smaller water spout. We've done it with all of these, and you can see it's perfectly healthy at the top, and we're getting a nice thick branch there where we've grown that trunk out. So, and that's really what we're looking for. And the final thing, like I said, the kind of the final thing to remember is that you're getting good clean cuts because you are opening up a wound every time you do that. So think of it like you would on you. If you were to give yourself that death by 1,000 cuts, that Chinese death by 1,000 cuts, you know, that's kind of what you're doing to a tree when you over prune it. It's just a lot of little cuts, and the tree has trouble recovering. You allow infection, disease, and everything to come in there, and so we want to avoid that. So just make sure you're trying to stay away from that and kind of sticking by those rules of thumb when you actually go to pruning your tree. It's not rocket science, but it does take a little bit of forethought, and then you want to kind of look at it from a distance, and it helps if you have somebody else that can kind of guide you while you're cutting those branches to get that shape the way that you want it. So anyways, guys, I appreciate you watching. I hope this has been informative. I hope this helps you kind of figure out what you're trying to do to get your orchard under control, and a little bit of orchard maintenance here. So maybe we'll start a series on orchard maintenance and get this going. We'll talk about different fertilizers and stuff like that we're trying to put down. Anyways, make sure and like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Please check us out on Facebook. Like I said, go down to the description box if you're interested in firearms at all. That's what our other channel is about. So please go down, check that out if that has any appeal to you. Otherwise, just enjoy the farm show, guys. We have a lot of fun doing this, and we really appreciate y'all watching.